She was just 21, expecting her first child, glowing with joy, and surrounded by loved ones for what should have been a memory she cherished forever. The decorations were soft hues of blue and white, laughter echoed under the backyard canopy, and music played gently in the background. But that joy shattered the moment her father arrived, with what looked like a present, and opened fire. One man fell instantly, his blood staining the grass and pastel-colored confetti. Screams erupted as chaos replaced celebration. And when it was over, the young mother-to-be lay motionless near her untouched baby shower cake. What drove a father to turn such a tender occasion into a scene of tragedy? Why did her mother stand frozen in place, doing nothing? And what exactly was in that haunting voice message Malik Carver received just hours before the massacre? This wasn't just family drama. It was something far more twisted. A storm of betrayal, secrets, and silence that had been brewing for years. By the time police secured the scene, the only person truly innocent had already died trying to stop it. Earlier that day, Imani Carver had been glowing. Her rounded belly proudly on display, she mingled with friends and family she hadn't seen in years, posing for pictures and beaming with excitement. But among the laughter, no one noticed the shift in the air when a man entered quietly, wearing gray, holding a silver box under one arm, and not saying a word. Some recognized him. Others didn't. But no one stopped him. He was her father. Malik didn't greet anyone, didn't glance at the gifts or the buffet. He simply walked toward the center of the yard, emotionless. Imani spotted him and smiled, waving. He didn't wave back. Then came the first shot. The crowd froze. The second, panic erupted. Zaire Morgan, the man standing closest to Imani, collapsed before anyone fully realized what was happening. The silver box was gone. In its place, Malik held a smoking handgun. Guests screamed and scrambled. Some ducked behind tables, others ran inside or fell to the ground in shock. Balloons burst beneath the rush of fleeing feet. Through it all, one woman stood paralyzed, Tanisha Ellington, Malik's ex-wife, watching in horror. Before she could scream, the third shot rang out. Imani had stepped forward. Why, no one knows for sure. Maybe to stop him. Maybe to shield Zaire. But she moved into the line of fire, and her body crumpled within arm's reach of her celebration cake. Sirens blared in the distance. Police rushed in. Malik had already dropped the weapon and was waiting, hands raised. He didn't resist. Didn't speak. Zaire was declared dead on the scene. Imani was still breathing when paramedics loaded her into the ambulance. She didn't make it to the hospital. Above the tragedy, blue and white balloons drifted in the air, mocking the silence that followed. Neighbors watched in shock. Tanisha stood trembling, whispering over and over, "Why her? Why would he do this?" It was the same question everyone was asking. Why did Malik bring a weapon disguised as a gift? Why target the man his daughter loved? And why fire again after she tried to stop him? Witnesses had differing accounts, but one detail remained the same: Malik never said a word. The gun had been carefully hidden inside the box, cushioned with tissue paper. 2 rounds remained in the magazine. Police quickly pieced together what happened, but not why. To understand that, we have to go back years. Malik had once been a quiet, thoughtful man. He married Tanisha in his late 20s. They lived a modest life, shared a townhouse, a car, and eventually welcomed their daughter Imani during one of the happiest chapters of his life. For a while, things seemed solid. But Tanisha began to drift, seeking more excitement, more attention. Malik noticed. She stayed out late, dressed up more. He asked questions. She gave short answers. He remained silent, until one call changed everything. A longtime friend who managed a hotel told him, "She's been here more than once. You should come see." Malik didn't argue. He drove out quietly. When he arrived, he saw Tanisha laughing with another man. They weren't hiding. They were close, affectionate. Malik didn't confront her. He didn't even speak. He turned and left. 3 days later, Tanisha returned home to divorce papers. No yelling. No accusations. Just a clean break. Malik moved to a small apartment, requested joint custody of Imani, but lost the case. Tanisha's lawyer painted him as unavailable and emotionally closed off. The court sided with her. Even so, Malik never gave up. He stayed present. Birthdays, school events, weekend visits. Every week, without fail, he called. Brought her books. Listened to her. Loved her. To Imani, he was her calm in the storm. But Tanisha moved on with Zaire. And slowly, Imani's connection to her father started fading. Malik never pushed. He just kept showing up. Until that voice message. It came years later, filled with trembling words and a confession no father should ever hear. That moment unraveled everything Malik had kept buried. A rage born not just from betrayal, but from powerlessness, from watching the one person he loved more than anything suffer while he stood on the sidelines. We may never know exactly what that message said. But it was enough to turn a quiet man into a killer. And it turned a joyful gathering into a devastating tragedy. A baby never born. A daughter never held again. And a man who waited in silence for justice, while his world burned behind him. He never planned to lose her trust. Even on the day of the baby shower, he believed she still had faith in him. Tanisha Ellington never truly explained her decisions. Not to Malik, not to Imani, not to the friends who thought they understood her. One moment, she was a woman starting over after divorce, the next, she was settled in Charlotte with a new man, pretending her past had vanished. Her change didn't come with an announcement, it was quiet, sudden, and unapologetic. Zaire Morgan was the kind of man who knew how to impress. In his mid-40s, he ran a local car dealership and always seemed to have cash on hand. He wore flashy watches and drove a spotless black Charger. When he met Tanisha through mutual friends, he wasted no time. Within weeks, he had paid her rent, upgraded her phone, and showered her with the kind of attention she'd missed for years. Malik had been reliable. Zaire was captivating. But her choice to move in with Zaire wasn't just about love, it was about survival. Tanisha had grown up with her mother's hard-learned lessons: love doesn't pay the bills, and financial security trumps emotional comfort. Zaire offered her more than affection. He promised her a share in a business, a place in his life insurance policy, and a future she felt she'd earned. She believed every word. By the time Tanisha and Imani relocated to Charlotte, Malik wasn't even told. The decision was already made. Imani, just 17, tried to adapt, but nothing felt familiar. The new apartment felt cold. Zaire's constant presence weighed heavy. He watched her, what she wore, where she went, who she spoke to. When she shared her discomfort, Tanisha dismissed it. "He's just looking out for you," she said. Eventually, Imani fell silent. She stayed in her room more. Her texts to Malik grew frequent, but her truths stayed hidden. He saw her forced smiles on video chats, but not the fear behind them. Meanwhile, Tanisha grew even more dependent on Zaire. She quit working, browsed salon equipment online, used his debit card freely. Her future was now tied to his money and his promises. What she didn't see was everything he was hiding. By 18, Imani's relationship with Zaire had changed into something she couldn't quite describe, but she could feel it. The compliments started subtly, the kind that lingered too long. "You're becoming a beautiful woman," he'd say. "You've got your mama's curves, but your own kind of fine." The comments came when Tanisha wasn't around. Then came the physical contact. They were intimate in the living room, something Zaire would later admit. Imani told Tanisha the next day, sat her down, and tried to explain. The reaction was ice cold. Tanisha didn't believe or didn't want to. Imani never brought it up again. Not long after, her best friend Zuri Banks began showing up. They had grown up together and stayed close. Zuri's visits felt like support at first. But Imani didn't know her grandmother had paid Zuri to talk to her, to convince her that what happened with Zaire wasn't wrong. That it was attention, not abuse. Zuri played her part. She reframed Zaire's actions as interest. She told Imani older men saw value others didn't. She painted compliance as maturity and subtly warned that fighting back would only make life harder at home. It worked, for a while. Imani withdrew. She spoke less. Her routines grew mechanical. She stopped engaging with Malik. Whatever had broken inside her no longer resisted. It settled. But then the truth came out. Zaire left one of his phones unattended. A photo from Zuri appeared. Suggestive. Personal. Not a one-time message, there was a thread. Dozens of them. Imani discovered Zuri hadn't just sold her out, she had joined in. Zaire was sleeping with both of them. Imani didn't confront them. She just erased Zuri from her life, deleted photos, unfollowed her, blocked every message. From then on, she was different. Colder. Detached. Friends said she stopped trusting anyone. The betrayal wasn't just Zaire's. It came from the mother who refused to listen. From the grandmother who paid for silence. And from the friend who turned intimacy into manipulation. Zaire remained untouchable in the house. Still the provider. Still promising a salon. Still smiling, still controlling. By 19, Imani had stopped speaking about it altogether. But the damage remained. She had already gone through 2 pregnancies, both ended, both hidden from the one person who would have protected her, her father. The first happened 6 months after Zaire's first violation. She thought it was just stress until it wasn't. When she couldn't ignore the symptoms anymore, she told no one. Zaire arranged the clinic. He drove her there. Waited outside. Tanisha never asked where they went. Never questioned the pharmacy bag. Never wondered why her daughter was curled in bed for 2 days. The next morning, when Zaire handed her cash and casually mentioned future plans, she only nodded, saying nothing. A year later, she was pregnant again. This time, his reaction changed. He was less composed, accusing Imani of negligence and irresponsibility. Still, he handled everything, the clinic, the recovery, and ensured things stayed quiet. Once again, Tanisha turned a blind eye. According to interviews later collected, Zaire made a specific promise during that time. When Imani turned 21, the salon would open under Tanisha's name. Her name would also replace his son's on the insurance policy. These weren't just empty words, they became Tanisha's motivation. Not protection, not love, not care, but ambition. So when Imani started talking about moving out, about building her own life, Zaire stepped in, subtly at first. He warned her about financial stress, hinted how difficult independence could be. Then, more directly, he urged Tanisha to remind her daughter what she owed them. And Tanisha obeyed. Each attempt Imani made to leave was quietly sabotaged. If she brought up rent, Tanisha guilt her. If she talked about college, Zaire discouraged it. Her job application at a nearby cafe? It vanished before her interview. No locks or chains held her back, just dependency and carefully designed manipulation. Then at 10:23 p.m., Malik Carver received a voice message. His daughter rarely used voice notes. She preferred texts, brief, to the point. But this one stretched over 9 minutes. He sat down and listened. It wasn't a check-in or a greeting. It was a controlled, raw confession. Her voice was steady but carried the weight of long-held truth. She apologized for the delay, for the silence, and for the shame that had kept her quiet. But shame no longer mattered. She was choosing honesty now, because survival had become unbearable. She named Zaire first, not as a one-time offender but as someone who had used control, manipulation, and fear over time. She described the pregnancies, the isolation, the threats. She explained how her mother hadn't just ignored the abuse, she had enabled it. And then came Zuri. Her friend, once trusted, had also become a piece of the same puzzle. Imani's voice cracked just once when she said she was tired. Not exhausted physically, just worn down by pretending everything was fine. Her final words would haunt Malik: "If something happens to me, just know it won't be random." Malik didn't reply. He didn't call. The next morning, he left quietly. Surveillance cameras at a local hardware store captured him buying a plain silver gift box, tissue paper, and ribbon. He placed his handgun, a registered firearm given to him years ago, inside it. No note. No explanation. Just quiet, determined action. He didn't text her to say he was coming to the baby shower. She had already mentioned the date weeks earlier, assuming he wouldn't come. And she was right until now. There were no signs anything was wrong. Malik's demeanor was calm. But inside the box lay a loaded weapon, and inside Malik, a man with nothing left to lose. By the time officers arrived, the backyard celebration had become a crime scene. Balloons still swayed in the breeze, but the joy was gone. 2 bodies lay on the ground. One already gone. The other barely alive. Witnesses said Malik didn't flee. He calmly placed the weapon on a parked car, raised his hands, and surrendered. No struggle, no outburst. Just surrender. Forensics confirmed the weapons match. Inside the home, guests were interviewed. No one questioned what had happened. Nearly everyone had seen him walk in, gift box in hand, and shoot Zaire. The second shot, hitting Imani, was less clear. Screams, chaos, and then the realization that she had stepped into the path of a bullet. Zuri collapsed near the cake table. She vomited, sobbed, and was later taken in for questioning. It was during this session that she broke. She confirmed her secret relationship with Zaire and revealed months of messages stored on her phone, texts, photos, and meetings. She also admitted to receiving money to help keep Imani compliant and distract her from Zaire's behavior. Tanisha was also questioned. She claimed ignorance. Denied knowing anything inappropriate had occurred. But when confronted with promises of a salon, insurance policies, and financial records, her answers became vague. Enough to raise suspicion. Evidence piled up. Phone logs, money transfers, lease drafts, beneficiary forms. This hadn't been love. It had been a transaction. Zuri took a plea deal, community service, probation, and mandatory therapy. She issued a short public apology that many found lacking. Malik was charged with murder and unlawful firearm possession. He pled guilty to 1 count. The voice message was entered as evidence, not as a defense, but as context. The judge recognized the pain behind the act but made clear that vigilante justice would not be excused. Malik received a 22-year sentence, with parole eligibility after 15. He did not appeal. Tanisha faced trial. The jury was unanimous. That voice note was enough. Her complicity was clear. She had sacrificed her daughter's safety for financial gain. She was sentenced to 12 years with no early release. No media circus followed. No protests. Just silence. Zahir's property was seized. The apartment was emptied. The unborn baby did not survive. Imani died protecting someone who had already abandoned her. She stepped in front of the bullet. Not for herself, but for someone who had helped end her. In the end, she was the only one who did the right thing.